What's up guys, my name is Crescent. If you're starting your Amazon journey and you want to follow the right strategy to build a successful Amazon business, you've come to the right place. I'm going to show you the exact step-by-step process on how you can start selling on Amazon that I personally used, as well as hundreds of my students, from how to set up your Amazon seller account, finding the right products to sell, where to source them from, the best way to differentiate your products so that you have a competitive advantage, how to ship them to Amazon, to launching your very first product. The entire process in itself isn't hard at all. In fact, pretty much anyone can sell on Amazon. However, in order to be successful and have the least amount of hurdles, there's specific steps and strategies that you need to follow so that you can avoid some of the big mistakes and pitfalls beginners often make that can often be detrimental to your success. Remember, you don't know what you don't know, and that's exactly what I'm going to go over in this video. So sit down, relax, grab something to drink, as this is going to be the most complete and comprehensive step-by-step guide to walk you through selling on Amazon from beginning to end. And don't feel overwhelmed if you get lost or if things are going a bit too fast. Bookmark this video so you can review it at any time, and to make sure that things are even easier for you, I've included chapter markers and timestamps in the video description below so that at any time you can jump to a specific chapter that you'd like to review. Alright, so the first thing to do to start your Amazon journey is smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Okay, so that might not directly help you with your Amazon journey, but it does help out this channel tremendously by letting the YouTube algorithm know that you enjoy this type of content and to show it to more people just like you, and I would really appreciate it. So thank you. Now, with that said, let's get started. Now, there's several different ways that you can sell on Amazon, such as wholesale, arbitrage, and private label. I personally do private label, and in my opinion, private label gives you the most control over the product and maximize profitability. So what is Amazon FBA and private labeling? Well, Amazon FBA stands for Fulfillment by Amazon. This is a service where Amazon will do all of the order fulfillment, picking and packing, shipping, and customer service for you. All you have to do as a seller is ship your products to an Amazon fulfillment center, and each time you sell a product, Amazon will take care of everything for you. It really is that simple and truly makes this a hands-off business model, which I love. Now, unlike wholesale or arbitrage where you're reselling other companies' branded products, with private label, you're selling your own branded generic products. These are products that are sold under your own brand that are not patented or trademarked. Private label is the most hands-off and scalable business model in my opinion. Okay, so now that you know how FBA and private label works, how much money do you need to get started? Well, to give you a rough estimate based on my experience, to properly start an Amazon private label business, you should expect somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $5,000. Now, if you've heard that you can start an Amazon business with as little as $500 to $1,000, just realize that although it can be done, it's unlikely. You need to have enough capital so that you can order enough inventory, properly develop your marketing material, and do a proper product launch. Selling on Amazon isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It will require a lot of your time and dedication, and if you follow all of the proven steps and strategies that I'm going to lay out for you, you can expect to see profits within 3 to 6 months. So if you're expecting to make 5 figures within the first couple of months, I suggest that you manage your expectations. Now, if you want to find a detailed breakdown of all of the startup costs, I do have a video that goes over this, and I'll post a link to it in the video description below. Okay, so before you do anything, the first step that you need to do is to see if you're even allowed to sell on Amazon. There's no point in moving forward if you're not allowed to. For the most part, anyone can sell in any Amazon marketplace from anywhere in the world. However, Amazon does have a few restrictions. Amazon has a list of countries that are allowed to sell on Amazon. If you happen to live in one of the countries not on this list, then you're not allowed to sell on Amazon. However, there are workarounds such as setting up a business in one of the approved countries, but how to do that is beyond the scope of this video. Amazon also has a list of approved countries where they support payment disbursements from. What that means is if you don't have a bank account from one of the countries on this list, Amazon will not be able to pay you your disbursements from your sales. Again, there's also several workarounds if you don't have a bank account in an approved country, but I'll cover those later on. All right, now, while setting up your new seller account, Amazon will ask you if you're setting up your seller account as an individual or a business. Now, Amazon doesn't require you to have a registered business to sell on Amazon. So if you want to sell as an individual, you can. You'd just be filing your revenue as personal income, and you wouldn't get any tax benefits or liability protection that a registered business can offer. Registering a business is pretty easy. You can do it yourself, but the process and costs vary by state. So visit your local state's government website for more information, or you can hire a service like LegalZoom to help you for a small fee. You can also start your Amazon business as an individual, and as you grow, register a business and then change your account type at that time. As for which type of business to set up, such as a sole proprietor or an LLC, I recommend speaking to a professional to see which option suits you best for your own individual needs. Okay, so when setting up your new Amazon seller account, there are 2 seller plans to choose from, and here's where it can get a bit confusing for some people. You can choose the individual seller plan or the professional seller plan. The individual plan you see here is not the same thing as the individual business type. The individual business type means that you don't have a registered business. The individual plan here is one of the 2 Amazon seller plans. The individual plan is free. There's no monthly fee. However, you have to pay a 99-cent fee each time that you make a sale. Whereas with the professional plan, it costs $39.99 a month. And as you can see here, if you sell more than 40 units each month, it's not worth it to have the individual plan. You also get access to all of these selling and advertising features with the professional plan. What I suggest is start with the individual plan so that you can get used to the system, and then upgrade to the professional plan once you're about to launch your first product so that you can take advantage of all the extra features. And a couple of pro tips when signing up for your seller account. I suggest using a different email address for your seller account rather than your personal Amazon account that you use to buy stuff with. This will make your bookkeeping a lot easier by keeping your business separate from your personal activities. Now, during the sign-up process, Amazon has become very strict on approving new seller accounts and will verify all of the information that you submit to prevent bad sellers from getting on board. Amazon has a detailed guide that includes all of the required documentation that you'll need in order to get verified. So make sure you read through this and have all of your information and documentation ready. And make sure you use your real information, as all of the documentation that you submit to verify your identity will all need to match. Most importantly, the name and addresses need to match. If they don't, it can create delays in the approval process. Also, make sure that the address is a real address where you can accept mail at, so that if Amazon sends you a verification by mail, you're able to receive it. Amazon is also doing phone verifications now too, so make sure that the phone number that you use is also a valid one. Also, make sure that your utility bill and banking details all match with the primary account holder's name and address. If they don't, use a different bill or call your bank or utility service and have the information updated to match before signing up on Amazon. Amazon will also require you to have a bank account and a valid credit card on file. Amazon sends your disbursements to your bank account, and if you owe any money, they'll charge it to your credit card. Now, if you don't have a bank account in one of the approved countries, like I mentioned earlier, you can use a service like Wise.com to set up a bank account and a credit card. Wise is free, and you don't need a US address or social security number to set up an account with Wise. With Wise, you get a bank account and a credit card that you can use on Amazon. Now, in my experience, new accounts have been approved within 24 hours. However, I know other people have had difficulty with getting their new accounts verified. This is usually because the documents they submitted were hard to read, didn't have matching details, submitted incorrectly, or was the wrong type of document. If that happens to you, don't be discouraged or afraid. Just fix the problem and resubmit your information. Now, if you want to learn more about how to sign up for a new seller account without getting rejected, I'll leave a link to a detailed video in the description below. All right, so once you have your seller account set up, the next thing that you want to do is find a viable product to sell. Now, back in the day, well, actually not that long ago, to be honest, finding viable products had far more risk and was much more of a gamble because there wasn't any tools available to gather any real tangible data on the product or niche that you can use. You basically chose products based on market trends or an educated guess. But lucky for us, nowadays, there's powerful product research tools that make analyzing product ideas much easier. But before we dive into product research, I want to cover an important step that almost everyone fails to do, and that's putting together a plan. How are you going to know if you've found a viable product to sell if you don't know what makes a product viable? When it comes to finding viable products, you need to know what your goal is and what the metrics are required in order to meet those goals. In this case, I'm assuming your goal is to make money. So take a minute and think about how much profit you realistically want to make each month. Is it $1,000 or is it $10,000 a month? Be realistic. Once you know how much money you want to earn, then you can figure out what type of product you'll need to find in order to achieve that goal. For example, if you want to make $3,000 per month profit, how many items would you need to sell every month? Well, to figure that out, you need to know how much the profit margin is for each item that you sell. And since we don't know what you're selling yet, you'll have to make an educated guess. What I recommend is aiming for a minimum of a $5 profit margin, ideally $10. A lot of people will use percentages when they talk about profit margin and will tell you to aim for something around 30 to 50% profit margins, but I don't like to use percentages because it's all relative. If your product costs $1 and you have a 50% profit margin, which may seem like a lot, but that's only 50 cents profit on each sale. So in order to make $3,000 a month, you'll have to sell 6,000 units. That's 200 units a day. What's more realistic is selling 5 or 10 units per day. And with a profit margin of $10 per unit, you'd only need to sell 10 items a day to hit your goal of $3,000 a month. Make sense? These numbers will come in handy shortly, so that's why it's important that you think about this first so that you have a plan and you know what these numbers are for your own situation. All right, so the product research tool that I use and recommend is called Jungle Scout. It has 3 tiers for you to choose from and includes all of the tools and features that you'll need in order to follow the steps and strategies that I cover to succeed. I've also worked together with Jungle Scout to get all of you the best deal out there. Not only can you try it out for free, but by using my discount code, you're not going to find it cheaper anywhere else. I'll leave a link to the coupon in the video description below. Now, I've developed many advanced product research strategies that I go over on my channel, but they're beyond the scope of this video. For beginners, the strategy I'm going to show you here is in fact how I found my first product. The hardest part of doing product research is actually the product discovery process. It's impossible for someone to just sit around and dream up endless product ideas to research. So in order to get enough product ideas, you need to access an endless list of products that you can analyze. So instead of trying to think up product ideas on your own, the 2 primary tools you'll be using are the Jungle Scout product database and the Chrome extension. With the product database, you can sort through thousands of different product opportunities simply by adjusting different search filters. The product database allows you to find items in Amazon's marketplace that match specific search criteria that you set. And the Chrome extension allows you to quickly and easily analyze product niches by displaying all of the relevant data in a convenient window for you to analyze. Okay, so this is what the product database looks like. It's a great place to start looking for viable products, and it'll let you get used to looking at specific data and metrics, as well as familiarizing yourself with what all the different filters mean. Now, this strategy will work in any marketplace, but if you're planning to sell in the US marketplace, choose US. Then select the categories that you want to find products to sell in. I personally only choose specific categories, as you can see here. I avoid these categories because, like clothing and shoes, there's way too many variations and returns to deal with. Electronics break all the time and can be hard to use. I avoid anything that you ingest, put in or on your body like lotions and creams because I just don't want to be liable if someone was to get injured or hurt. Toys and games is way too competitive and the life cycle of the products is way too short. I suggest sticking with standard size products. Oversized can be a logistical nightmare with extremely high fees. And for seller types, select them all. Now in the price field, I suggest setting the price range between $15 and $50 to start. I don't recommend selling products that are less than $15 because once you subtract your manufacturing costs and the Amazon fees, there won't be any money left over for profit. You can use the rule of thirds here. Typically, 1/3 will go to manufacturing, 1/3 will go to fees, and the last third is your profit. So at $15, you'll make around $5. Anything less and you won't have any margin to absorb any additional or unexpected costs. Now, in the current economy, if you can afford it, what I highly recommend doing is selling high ticket products. These are products that sell for $50 and higher. High ticket products generally have higher profit margins, and due to the higher costs, it's a barrier to entry for most people, so the competition is far less. The only issue is that these types of products aren't impulse buys, so you need to be far more diligent with your product listing optimization. So instead of just putting $15 here like what most people will do, most people will just set round numbers here, but I want to think outside the box and go slightly beyond the range to capture any listings that are priced close to the minimum and maximum price range, since sellers like to use different pricing strategies. So I'm going to put $14.97 and $50.25. It's not rocket science. You can actually use any decimal amount. Now, remember the planning we did earlier? If your monthly profit goal is $3,000, then with a product that has a $5 profit margin, you'll need to sell 600 units per month, whereas with a $10 profit margin, you'd need to sell 300 units per month. Make sense now? So let's set the minimum monthly sales to 300. That's a good starting point based on the target sales and profit goals that I mentioned earlier and a product with a $10 profit margin. Now, remember the rule of thirds that I also mentioned earlier? If your goal is to make $3,000 in profit every month, then using the rule of thirds, you can roughly estimate that you'll need to find a product that generates around $9,000 in revenue per month. A third is your manufacturing costs, a third goes to Amazon fees, and the last third is your profit. So set the minimum revenue to $9,000. Now I'm actually going to set this lower to $6,000, again, thinking outside the box. I want to capture any outlier products that might be selling decently well, but if I can improve it, perhaps it will meet my revenue target. So for the maximum reviews, set it to 300. Reviews is how we determine how competitive a niche is. You want to find niches that have low competition. Niches where most of the listings have a lot of reviews will be much more difficult and expensive to break into. Set the maximum weight to 2 pounds. Anything heavier will be considered oversized and the fees will be much higher. Okay, now keep in mind that none of these search criteria are set in stone. You can play around with these to find different product ideas. For example, you can set a maximum review rating here, which is how many stars a listing has based on the reviews, to say 3.5 or something, so that you can specifically look for products that are selling well despite having poor reviews. Now, when we click on search, you'll see a list of all the products on Amazon that match our search criteria. In fact, there are tens of thousands of products that pulled up, as you can see here. You can see that the product image, title, price, monthly sales and revenue, the number of reviews, and the review rating, as well as how old the listing is, and a ton of other metrics here. And a pro tip here is, if you've noticed, a lot of listings made it past the filters that we set. Listings such as clothing, food, and brand name products, like you can see here. So to fix that, what I do is I have a list of keywords that I want to exclude from the search results. This is an evolving list of keywords that I've built over the years. If I keep seeing the same type of product showing up in the search, then I'll add the product keyword to the list. For example, you can see here that I have men's, women's, Nike, Under Armour, shirt, pants, sock, and so on. The key here is to make your product research as efficient as possible. Anything you can do to save time and energy will pay you in spades. I'll post this list of keywords in the description below if you want to copy them. Now back to the search results. I'm going to make analyzing this really easy for you. Ignore all of the data that you see. What I do is I browse through these listings looking for products that catch my eye. Look at the main photo and the title. Products that I don't immediately recognize or look strange and out of the ordinary are the best ones to look for. If I immediately recognize what the product is, I skip it. Those products are almost always saturated and are way too competitive, and there's no sense in wasting time analyzing them. The key to finding viable products is efficiency. When you have hundreds or thousands of potential products to look at, you want to only spend extra time on the ones that have the most potential. Spending an extra 2 to 3 minutes on every product adds up. The thing is, you don't know when you'll find your next product. It could take a day or two, or it could take a couple of weeks or longer. Each one of my products took around 2 months to find and validate, so you need to practice patience and manage your expectations. Product research is the most important step to selling on Amazon. If you end up with a bad product idea, no matter how well you do anything else, it simply won't sell well. It pays to do your due diligence. Okay, so back to the results. And a pro tip, I like to set the page size to 100 so there's less page loading, and I actually like to work backwards to the results starting on the last page, as everyone almost always starts on page 1. I want to find products that other people might not be seeing. Remember, you really need to always be thinking outside of the box. Okay, so when I find a product that catches my eye, like this mini small square precision machinist square, it doesn't automatically mean it's a good product idea to pursue. This is just a product that happens to meet the criteria that we set in the filters. What you need to do is take a look at the entire product niche, see how well all of the top sellers are doing, and determine if the entire niche as a whole meets your criteria. So in order to do that, you need to do a search for the product on Amazon using the main keyword for that product. I'll figure out what I believe the main keyword is and do a search on Amazon for this product. It's important that you use the shortest, most relevant keyword phrase that describes the product. Otherwise, you'll pull up the wrong list of products to analyze. In this case, by looking at the title, I know this is a 90-degree precision machinist square. So I believe the shortest keyword phrase is actually machinist square. So head on over to Amazon, make sure all departments is selected, and do a search for machinist square. Now make sure that the majority of the listings that come up are indeed the same product. Otherwise, you're doing a search using the wrong keyword phrase. In this case, it looks right, so we can pull up the Jungle Scout Chrome extension. Now, as you can see here, the Chrome extension has pulled up a ton of info for each listing, such as the monthly sales, total revenue, and a ton of other relevant data. This is such a powerful tool because it displays all of this data for you to quickly analyze. Data that you would never have access to otherwise. Now, deep diving into how to analyze niches is beyond the scope of this video, but I'll go over a few of the key points. First, you can see that the Chrome extension has pulled up several metrics for the top listings in the search results. It's important at this point that you do not resort these listings or rearrange them. This is a common mistake many beginners make. The default order that you see is exactly how the listings are organically sorted in the search results by Amazon. You want to analyze niches with the listings arranged in their organic order. This is because these top listings, especially the listings on the first page of the search results, they are the listings that you'll be competing directly against. If you resort the listings, you could be looking at listings that may have sold well in the past but are no longer selling, or the niche has tanked in the last few months and is no longer a good product idea. So don't sort the lists by sales or revenue or some other metric that I see a lot of people doing. You also want to ignore all these sponsored listings. These are the listings that say sponsored next to them. These are placed here by the PPC advertising system. Basically, whoever bids the highest for specific keywords gets the best ad placement. So those listings aren't placed there organically. You can see these same listings here in the Chrome extension with the ad logo next to them. You want to ignore these. You can actually turn these off so that they don't show up at all in the Chrome extension by clicking on the settings and choosing Show Sponsored Products. Now, by analyzing the data, such as the price, sales volume, revenue, and reviews, you can determine if this niche meets your criteria that you set out in your plan and if it's able to hit your profit and sales goals. It's important that you do this. Just because one or a few of the listings are making a lot of sales doesn't mean that it's a good niche. You need to make sure there's enough demand and the competition is relatively low, and most importantly, that you can break into the niche and capture a part of the market and hit your profit and sales targets. For example, are most of the top listings selling 300 units or more every month? Are most of the top listings making around $6,000 a month or more in revenue? Now, it's important that you don't be lazy and make any decisions based solely on the averages that you see at the top here. Always analyze the actual data of all of the top listings. Averages don't accurately represent the niche as a whole. For example, it only takes one or two listings with really high or really low figures to throw off the average. So physically count. Are most of the top 12 to 15 listings selling 300 units or more each month? Are most of them doing at least $6,000 in revenue each month? And to make sure the competition isn't too high, or if the niche is saturated, do most of the listings have less than 300 reviews? Are most of the listings 3 to 4 months old or newer? Additionally, you also want to make sure that the niche isn't brand dominated, meaning that no single brand has more than 3 or 4 listings in the top 10. You also want to make sure that the product isn't seasonal, patented, or trademarked. Again, this is just the basics. I'll leave a link to a very detailed video on how to properly do product research in the video description below. Now, while you're analyzing product ideas, you also want to keep in mind how you can differentiate. You can't just sell the exact same thing as other sellers and expect to do well. You need to have a competitive advantage. Otherwise, you can only compete based on price, and you never want to do that because it will always end up in a price war and a race to the bottom where everyone keeps lowering the price until no one is making any money. You always want to differentiate and offer a high quality premium product so that you can have a competitive advantage, and more importantly, you can charge more. Now, there are several ways that you can differentiate. A method that I like to use is to look at the reviews on the competitors' listings and see what people are complaining about. You can find excellent ideas on how to fix a problem, add a feature, or improve it. And one of my favorite ways to differentiate is by bundling. This is adding a small bonus item to the product that doesn't add much cost, but adds a ton of value. You can get bundling ideas by looking at the frequently bought together section in the listing or by using your own intuition. Just make sure that you're not pairing two main items together and that the bonus item makes sense to pair with the main product. The bundled item should be a small bonus that the buyer is essentially getting for free. For example, if I'm selling a yoga mat, it would make sense to bundle a small resistance band. However, bundling the yoga mat with a backpack wouldn't make any sense. In today's economy, don't think you can differentiate simply by having a better listing. Nowadays, all the top sellers will have top-notch, fully optimized listings with excellent professional photos and copy. You should always have a top-notch quality listing anyways, but I have seen some niches where the listings are terrible. Now, beyond making sure that the product meets all of the product research criteria and that you've identified a method to differentiate, there's also a few things that you need to consider. You want to make sure that the product is small and lightweight. Ideally, you want the product to be able to fit inside a shoebox and weigh less than a pound. Otherwise, the shipping and Amazon fees will be much higher. Also, make sure that the product is easy to manufacture. The more complicated it is, like it has a ton of pieces, moving parts, or requires assembly, there can be quality control issues as well as much higher manufacturing costs, especially if you want to differentiate and it requires retooling or new molds. I also suggest staying away from products that are difficult to operate, require instructions, can break easily, electronic devices, or anything that can be a liability where someone can get hurt, like food, lotions and creams, or anything that would go in or on your body. Or products that people often return, like clothing or toys. It's not worth the risk or getting bad reviews. And lastly, one of the most important product research mistakes I see people making is not making sure ahead of time that they're allowed to sell the product on Amazon. Some products are prohibited or have restrictions in order to sell them on Amazon. With prohibited products, you can't sell them on Amazon, period. So make sure you find out ahead of time before you invest any money on inventory. Restricted products may need approval before you can sell them. Additionally, some products fall under what's called gated categories. That means you need to apply for approval in that category before you can sell products in that category. Many of these gated categories are actually pretty easy to get approval for. You just need to answer a few questions and you'll get instant approval. However, other categories may be more involved and will require you to submit invoices or certifications. If you refer to this list of gated categories, it'll tell you what you need to do and what the requirements are. But keep in mind, some main categories that are not gated may have subcategories that are gated. Also, some products must meet specific compliance requirements or certifications in order to sell on Amazon, such as hazmat, FBA, or CPC certifications. Amazon actually has a new compliance tool to make it easier for sellers to check if the product has any of these requirements. I'll leave a link to this tool in the description below, but it's actually really simple to use. Just do a search for the product keyword and the tool will tell you what requirements are necessary for you to sell it on Amazon. For example, if you want to sell baby pacifiers, you can see that it says you need to have the following requirements: a CPSIA, as well as these certifications, test reports that meet CPSA section 14A5, a children's product certificate or CPC, as well as test reports from a CPSC accepted lab. Also be aware that if you don't find your product using this tool, it doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't any requirements. Make sure you refer to the prohibited and restricted products pages, as well as speak to a seller support agent to verify. Always do your due diligence. And lastly, I see far too many beginners get in trouble selling products that are patented or trademarked. Selling patented or trademarked products will require you to get permission from the IP owner in order for you to sell them on Amazon. I personally suggest avoiding patented and trademarked products altogether. It's far too much of a pain and risk. Just because you see other sellers selling the product doesn't mean you can. They may have gotten permission or they simply haven't been caught yet. And don't believe what your manufacturer tells you. They may not know that the product is patented or trademarked, and if you decide to sell it, your products are considered counterfeit and the responsibility falls on you, not them, and you can get sued. Again, I'll leave links in the description below if you want to learn more about these restrictions and requirements. Alright, so now that you've found a product, you need to find a supplier to manufacture it. And as you've probably already guessed, the most cost-effective way to get your products made is overseas in China. You can use a website called Alibaba to find suppliers. Alibaba is basically a huge database of manufacturers where you can find pretty much any product you can think of. For example, if we're looking to sell the machinist square, just do a search on Alibaba, and you can see a list of all these manufacturers that make them. You can also see how long the manufacturer has been on Alibaba, their reviews, as well as the price and their minimum order quantity. Now, before moving forward with your product idea, you can also go one step further to verify if the product is viable by double checking whether it will even be profitable. By looking at this list of suppliers, you can now get a rough estimate of what the unit cost is, and armed with that info, you can calculate an estimate of what your monthly profit will be and if you can hit your monthly goal. For example, if we take a look at the list of suppliers, we can see that the average price per unit is around $5. And you can see that on some of these listings, it also shows the shipping price. For example, on this one here, we can see the shipping cost. That's if you just buy one unit. But my guess is the shipping is actually going to be much less. Actually, probably less than $1 when you buy in bulk. So this is a good starting point. Now, if you jump back to the Machinist Square product listings, we can use the built-in profit calculator in the Chrome extension. Click on one of the listings in the list here, and you can see that the product details have been pulled up for that product, such as the sale price, product dimensions, and weight. These metrics are necessary in order to calculate the proper fees. Now we can leave the default figures that this seller has for their product, or you can change the sale price or how much it costs to manufacture, as well as the cost to ship to Amazon. For example, if we leave the sale price as it is, and we change the unit cost to $6, that's the $5 unit cost plus the $1 estimated shipping that we got from Alibaba, it'll tell us exactly what our profit margin is if we were to sell this exact same product. And you can see here in this case exactly what the FBA fees are and what the profit margin is here. Pretty cool, right? Now, if you don't have Jungle Scout, you can use the Amazon FBA calculator. It's free. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Now, all you gotta do is grab the ASIN of one of the competitors. You can find the ASIN here in the Chrome extension. Or if you jump on one of the product listings, you can get the ASIN in the URL. It always starts with a B0. Copy it and paste it here. And you can see that it pulls up all of the product details for you. And just like the Jungle Scout calculator, you can edit the sale price, how much it costs to manufacture and ship to Amazon. And it will tell you exactly what your FBA fees are and your profit margin. So can you see how powerful it is by taking just these small extra steps? If the profit margin doesn't meet your target and you can't think of a way to lower your costs or add value so that you can increase the sale price, then maybe this product isn't a viable product idea. Now, if the product does meet your profit target, then you'll need to find a supplier to manufacture the product. What you want to do is make sure you select Trade Assurance and Verified Supplier. This will filter out all of the suppliers that accept trade assurance and are verified suppliers on Alibaba. A verified supplier is a manufacturer that has been vetted by Alibaba and has a proven historical track record. Trade assurance is Alibaba's secure payment protection service, where your payment is held in basically an escrow, and only when the transaction has been completed in accordance with the contract will Alibaba release the payment to the manufacturer. Things like the quality of the product and on-time delivery. Otherwise, you can get a refund. By selecting the verified supplier and trade assurance filters, only suppliers that have been vetted and agree to use the trade assurance service will show up in the search results. Alibaba also offers product inspection services to ensure that the final product meets your requirements, and I'll go over this later on in the video. Okay, so when it comes to contacting manufacturers, don't just contact a couple that you think are the best option for you, like the ones that have the lowest price or the lowest MOQ. You want to contact around 20 to 30 or more, and this is for several reasons. First, don't be surprised, but you probably won't even get a response from many of them, while others may be slow to respond. You might not hear from them for several days or weeks. With suppliers like that, you obviously don't want to work with them. It'd be a nightmare. Some suppliers may have poor communication skills, like they don't speak English well or are difficult to understand. I suggest avoiding suppliers in those cases as well. Make sure you stick to manufacturers that respond quickly, communicate well, and also thoroughly answer the questions that you have. This is so that you can avoid any potential miscommunications or misunderstandings. Remember, you're trying to build a long-term working relationship, and you want to work with someone that is easy to deal with. And of course, the more people you contact, the more quotes you can get to find the best price and option to go with. Now, if you've tried to contact suppliers in the past and didn't get many responses or got extremely high quotes, it's probably because you didn't sound professional during the correspondence. Remember, these suppliers are probably getting dozens of inquiries every single day, and they're going to quickly filter out the ones that they don't think are serious and a waste of time. Now, don't worry, I have you covered. I'll leave a link in the video description below to a contract template that you can download and use for free. This is the exact same template that I use to contact suppliers. It sounds professional and has all of the details and information that you'll need to get from the supplier in a single correspondence, so you don't need to go back and forth several times to get all the information that you need, which because of the time zone difference can take several days. Just customize the template for each supplier, replace the fields with your own details, and fill in the template with the product details, and copy and paste it into the contact supplier inquiry form. And make sure that you're not contacting the same supplier more than once. It's not uncommon for suppliers to have multiple listings, so make sure you're keeping track of who you're contacting. It doesn't look professional sending the same email to the same supplier several times. Alright, so once you've contacted suppliers, received quotes, and negotiated the price and MOQ, narrow down the list to your best 3 to 4 suppliers. Keep in mind though that the best price may not always be the best option. Always consider the quality, service, delivery times, as well as the price. Then order samples. Always get samples so that you can physically see, touch, and feel the product and judge its quality. Not every manufacturer is going to produce the same level of quality. Samples are typically free, but you have to pay for the shipping, which is usually around $50 to $75 each, but the supplier that you end up working with will usually reimburse you the cost of that sample, so make sure you mention that to them when you place your order. So after receiving the samples, you should be able to make a final decision on which supplier you want to work with. Make sure that you've discussed the shipping terms as well. Not all suppliers will or can ship your products for you. I suggest always asking them what they can do for you, as well as contacting freight forwarders to get a shipping quote. Then you can compare to see which option is best for you. If you'd like to learn more about how the shipping process works and what the shipping terms like EXW, FOB, and DDP mean, I have a separate video on this which I'll post a link to in the video description below. Now, once you have an idea of the quality of the products, you can further negotiate with all of the suppliers, or if you have any changes that you want to make, you can communicate that to them as well. Keep in mind that everything is negotiable. So if one supplier is offering something that another isn't, you can try to negotiate to get better terms for yourself. You just have to be willing to walk away if they're not willing to meet your requests. And remember, sometimes the best price may not be the best choice. Consider how well they communicate, the quality of the products, how quickly they can complete the order, the price on future orders. For example, the initial cost for your small first order may be a bit higher, but they're willing to offer you a better deal on future orders when you place a larger order, etc., etc. Use all of these metrics to help you vet the suppliers and narrow them down to a single supplier. And a pro tip here is, when you initially contact the suppliers, it'll most likely be through Alibaba's messaging system. Most suppliers may probably ask you to continue the conversations on Skype, WhatsApp, or WeChat, and that's totally normal. The Alibaba messaging system is cumbersome to use. Just make sure that everything you've negotiated and discussed outside of Amazon's messaging system, you then accurately document in your contract and purchase order agreement so that Alibaba has a record of it, since none of the conversations are recorded in their chat system. Now, speaking of purchase agreements, I also have a purchase agreement template that you can download and use. I highly suggest you use it because it covers everything that you need to include in a purchase agreement, from what each party is responsible for to all of the terms and conditions. You can easily tailor it to suit your needs, and I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Now, once all of that is said and done, your supplier will want you to pay for your order before they'll start manufacturing. Don't be surprised if they want you to pay 100% of it up front. However, that wouldn't be very smart for you to do. Typically, payment terms are somewhere between 30 to 50% upfront, and then the balance upon completion. Just whatever you do, don't pay 100% of it up front. You also want to make sure you're protecting yourself with how you make your payment. Do not pay using a wire transfer or bank transfer. You'll have absolutely no protection. Once the money leaves your account, it's gone. If something goes wrong, you have no means of recourse. What I suggest is use Alibaba's trade assurance and pay using PayPal or a credit card to pay for your order, so that if something does happen, you can file a dispute through trade assurance, PayPal, or your credit card company. Ideally, I recommend using PayPal and setting up your credit card as the payment method on PayPal. That way, if for whatever reason PayPal denies your claim, you can still file a claim through your credit card company. Now, once your supplier has completed manufacturing your products, one important step is to have a product inspection done. I can't emphasize how important this step is. There have been many times when the quality of the final production units don't match the quality of the samples, or there was some sort of miscommunication and the products were made wrong. Always have an inspection done. And always have the inspection done before your products leave the factory. I've seen people try to save some money and have the product shipped to their home so that they can inspect it themselves. Don't do that. If something is wrong, the logistics and cost to ship the products back to China will be prohibitive alone. And in most cases, the supplier will deny any liability. That's why it's important to have the inspection done before the product leaves your supplier. That way, the supplier can't deny any responsibility. And again, make sure to use the free purchase order template that I have, because there's a clause in there stating that the product inspection will be done at your expense. However, if the inspection fails, your supplier will need to fix the problems and pay for the second inspection. Now, in some instances, such as when the product is extremely simple and easy to manufacture, you could consider just having your supplier send you some detailed photos of your product at varying stages of the production process so that you can verify that they're being done correctly, or do a live video chat or FaceTime call so that you can see them. You'd have to decide if it's worth it for you to actually get an inspection done based on your own risk tolerance. Inspections actually aren't that expensive, and it's good peace of mind. A typical inspection costs around $150 to $300 depending on what you want checked. Okay, so once you have your product taken care of, another thing to consider is your branding and product packaging. I would ask your supplier what their standard packaging is for the product, decide if it's what you want. If the packaging is some plain generic box or poly bag, you may want to repackage it into something custom designed and more premium or decorative. By creating a custom designed package, you can add value to your product without much additional cost. At the same time, you can also have your brand or logo printed on the packaging to help increase your product perceived value and build your brand. Now, when it comes to naming your product, I suggest choosing a brand name that's generic and not niche specific. Something niche specific locks you into a specific type of product. For example, if you started selling soap dishes and your brand was Bath and Body Works, it wouldn't make sense if you started selling cell phone cases under that same brand. Something generic that isn't niche specific would make more sense. I also suggest hiring a logo and package designer to create your package design and logo for you. You can find really good designers on Fiverr.com. And at the same time, you can have them incorporate the Amazon barcode and any other required markings into the package design, such as the country of origin. That will help you save some money instead of having to label them separately. And a pro tip is to also have your designer create an insert card that you could include inside the package. The insert card can thank the buyer for their purchase and ask them to leave you a review. And here's where buying the top competitors' products will help you immensely. You can see for yourself what your competitors are doing, the quality of their products, their package design, and if they're using their own insert card and how you can improve on them. Just make sure that the insert card doesn't violate any of Amazon's insert card guidelines. I have a separate video on how to create powerful insert cards, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below if you want to learn more about it. Now, speaking of branding, Amazon doesn't require you to have a registered brand or trademark to sell on Amazon. However, if you do register your brand, you get access to advanced features such as brand protection, brand registry, and A+ content, which means you can add videos to your listing, have much richer content in your listing description, including photos and themes. You also get access to tools to help prevent and remove listing hijackers and other intellectual property violators. You can register your trademark yourself directly through the uspto.gov website. But be aware, if it's something that you plan on doing, it typically takes around 6 to 9 months to get registered. However, you can apply for brand registry on Amazon right away once you've submitted your trademark application and get your registration number. Alright, so once your product is manufactured, you need to get it shipped from your supplier's factory overseas to Amazon's fulfillment center. This can be a complicated process, so I don't recommend trying to do this yourself. I highly suggest that you hire a freight forwarder to handle this for you. Arranging the shipment and filling out the paperwork must all be done correctly, otherwise your shipment can be lost, held up somewhere, incur penalties, or sent back to your supplier. You can find freight forwarders on Alibaba or on Freightos.com. I'll leave links to these pages in the description below. Keep in mind that shipping by air is the most expensive, however, it's also the quickest. Shipments typically take around 7 to 10 business days, whereas shipping by sea is the cheaper method, but can take 3 to 8 weeks. What I suggest is for your first order, which is usually pretty small, ship it by air so you can start selling right away. Then on future orders, you can either ship it entirely by sea or split the shipment up, shipping some of it by air and the bulk by sea once you understand your sales velocity and can manage your inventory to accommodate the 3 to 8 week shipping time. Be aware that ever since COVID, the entire supply chain has been affected. Everything from materials availability to manufacturing, shipping, and customs are extremely delayed. And this includes Amazon's processing of inbound shipments at their warehouses. Now, one thing to consider is to ask your supplier if they will ship your products for you. Some may not. Some may only ship it to their local port. Ask them and see what they're willing to do for you and if they offer DDP shipping. DDP is an Incoterm, which means they will arrange the entire shipment and take responsibility for it from their factory all the way to Amazon's fulfillment center. All you need to do is pay your supplier. Doing this can cut out the freight forwarder and can save you some time dealing with logistics and costs. So get quotes from your supplier as well as from several freight forwarders and see which option works best for you. If you want to learn more about how shipping from China to Amazon works and how you can save money, I'll leave a link to a video in the description below. Now, before you can physically ship your products though, Amazon requires you to create a shipping plan so that they know what to expect when your shipment arrives to their fulfillment center and who it belongs to. You can create a shipping plan in Seller Central. But in order to create a shipping plan, you need to have a verified seller account and have created the listing for your product. So if you haven't already completed those steps, you'll have to do them first. Now I realize this next step is out of order, but I'll go over how to create a product listing in the next part of this video. Now, a couple of key points to note when creating a shipping plan is to make sure you choose individually packed versus case packed. Individually packed means inside each shipping carton, you can have mixed products and each shipping carton doesn't have to be exactly the same size or contain the same products or quantities. Whereas case packed means every carton is exactly the same and contains the exact same product and quantity. Even if your product is case packed, I suggest always choosing individually packed. This is because if for whatever reason your supplier packed your shipment in different size cartons or put a different number of units inside the cartons, if you choose case packed, you won't have the ability to enter different sized shipping cartons. You'll thank me later. Also, you want to make sure that you choose seller for who labels. This means that you are going to put the Amazon barcodes on all of your units, not Amazon. You meaning your supplier. If you don't have your supplier do it, you can have Amazon do it, but Amazon's going to charge you a 55 cent per unit fee. You also want to make sure that you enter the dimensions and weight of your unit and cartons in the correct place. If you enter the shipping carton size and weight as the unit size and weight, it will throw off a bunch of calculations. Your product will most likely end up being classified as oversize. You'll notice that your FBA fees are exorbitant and you'll get an error that you don't have enough storage space. So make sure you don't mix those up. One thing I want to point out is you're most likely going to always choose SBD here, unless you're shipping a huge shipment where you're taking up half or an entire container. And a pro tip, Amazon offers deeply discounted shipping rates for domestic shipments if you use their partnered carrier program. Because Amazon does so much shipping volume, you can save a ton of money on your domestic shipment. So talk to your freight forwarder and see if you can take advantage of that for your domestic portion of your shipment. And while you're here, take note that new seller accounts typically have a storage limit of 1,000 units. You can see what your storage limit is on the bottom of the shipping queue page here. Double check to verify what your limit is, because if you place an order with your supplier that is more than what your storage limit is, then you can only ship inventory up to your limit to Amazon, and you're going to have to find a solution to store your extra units somewhere else, either at your home, a storage unit, or 3PL. And Amazon recently upgraded the shipping plan workflow, and it can be quite confusing to navigate the new system. So if you want to learn how to use it, I'll leave a link to a detailed video in the description below. Now, once you've completed the shipping plan, you can then print out the shipping labels, which will have the Amazon Fulfillment Center addresses on them. You can actually download the shipping labels and email them to your supplier so that they can put them on the shipping cartons. If there's more than one carton, make sure the correct labels go on the corresponding cartons. Now, one thing to note, these shipping plan labels are for Amazon's purposes only. These are not the same labels that a shipping carrier would put on each shipping carton for the actual shipment. Those labels you would get directly from the shipping carrier, such as FedEx, DHL, or UPS. All right, now onto creating your product listing. In Seller Central, click on Menu, Catalog, Add Products. Because we're doing private label, click on I'm adding a product not sold on Amazon. Don't enter anything into the search field. Now, in the search field, type in the product and Amazon will find the correct category for your product. Select the category, and now you'll need to fill out details for your product listing. Anything highlighted in red or a tab at the top with a red exclamation mark means that there are required fields that you haven't completed yet or has invalid data. You won't be able to complete the listing unless you've filled in those required fields at a minimum. One thing to note, in order to create a listing for private label products, you need to have purchased a UPC barcode. Amazon's UPC barcode policy states that you need to buy your barcode directly from GS1 or you risk having your listing shut down. In the past, sellers would buy barcodes from third-party resellers like Barcodes Mania or Nationwide Barcodes for around $10 each to save some money, which is what I used to do since GS1 Barcodes used to cost $250. However, GS1 has recently updated their pricing and it's no longer worthwhile for you to do so. You can now buy official GS1 barcodes directly from GS1 for $30, as you can see here. You only need to buy one barcode for your product. And once you have the barcode and you enter it into the listing here, you'll never need it again. Barcodes and figuring out how many you need to buy can be confusing, so if you want to learn more about them, I'll leave a link to a detailed video in the description below. Now, for the brand name, if you have a registered brand, enter it here. If you don't, just make something up. You don't need to have a registered brand to sell on Amazon. Now, if you run into any errors when you choose your brand, I have a detailed video on how to resolve them, and I'll leave a link to that video in the video description below. Okay, now a few important things I want to point out. When you're creating your title, bullet points, and description, you want to make sure that you're using as many of the most relevant keywords as possible. You can get a list of all the most relevant keywords by using a free tool like Keyword Inspector and keywordtool.io, but these free options aren't very thorough. The best keyword research tool is Jungle Scout's Keyword Scout. By entering in the seed keyword for your product, Keyword Scout will generate a huge list of all the relevant keywords and keyword phrases for you. You can download the comprehensive list of all the relevant keywords for your product and use them to create the title, bullet points, and description. And I have a few pro tips for you. First, you can use Keyword Scout to do a reverse ASIN keyword search on your competitors' listings and steal the keywords your competitors are using. How powerful is that? Just grab the ASIN of the top sellers' listings and enter it into Keyword Scout, and you'll get a list of the keywords that they're using. Second, instead of just listing generic features in your bullet points, list 5 key benefits and how they help solve a problem for the buyer. People buy products to solve a problem that they're having. How does your product uniquely solve those issues? A test that I like to use for my bullet points is if I can take my bullet points and place them onto a competitor's listing and they'll work for their product, then those are poor bullet points. Third, make sure you fill in the generic keywords field with keywords from your keyword list that you haven't already used in your listing. The generic keywords field is also known as the back-end keyword list. This field is used to help Amazon's A9 search algorithm further index your listing. But as you can see here, it says no repetition, no competitor brand names, and no ASINs. Now, Amazon recently changed the whole add a new product workflow and changed a whole bunch of things. I have a detailed step-by-step video that goes into how to create an optimized listing using the new workflow. So if you want to learn more about how to do that, I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. Now, one important aspect of your listing that you cannot underestimate is your product photos. The quality of your photos will make or break the success of your product. Unless you're a professional product photographer, always hire a professional to take the photos of your product. You can find product photographers on Fiverr.com or even look locally in your city. And make sure that you follow Amazon's guidelines too. The main photo must be on a pure white background, can't have any Amazon logos or trademarks, and cannot have any text among a huge list of other stipulations. And to make sure the zoom feature works on your images, make sure the resolution is at least 1000 pixels. Most categories will allow you to upload 9 images, so make sure you to use them all. However, some categories may only let you upload 7 or less. Make sure that your photos easily communicate the benefits and features of your product. We humans are very visual creatures, so we'd rather look at photos than read a bunch of text. So use lifestyle photos, infographics, comparison charts to show off your product, as well as a clear indication of its physical size and dimensions. Again, I have a detailed video that goes over step by step on how to create an optimized product listing, and I'll leave a link to it in the description below. All right, now with your product listing sorted, you're ready to launch your product. One thing I want to point out is that your listing won't be live in the Amazon Marketplace until you have inventory in stock. So even if you've got everything done and you have all of your ducks in a row, if Amazon hasn't received your shipment or they haven't processed your shipment yet, and your listing says inactive, out of stock, then your listing isn't live and no one can actually find your listing in the marketplace yet. So you'll have to wait to start your product launch. So you might be asking, why do you even need to do a product launch? Once your listing goes live in the Amazon Marketplace, wouldn't people just start buying it? Well, in fact, no, that's not how it works. Amazon ranks listings primarily based on their daily sales velocity. What that means is when someone does a search on Amazon for something, the listings in the search results are arranged in the order of which listings sells the most each day. Now, there's actually several metrics that influence a listing's rank, but Amazon hasn't actually made it public exactly what those metrics are. But metrics like the sales history and conversion rate play a role. However, the daily sales velocity is the main driving factor. So because you're launching a brand new product with no sales history, your listing has no sales. So because you're launching a brand new product with no sales history, your listing is going to show up in no man's land. It'll either be on the last page of the search results, like on page 30 or something, where no one's ever going to look, or it may not even show up at all in the search results. So why is this important? It's important because you want to get your listing ranked onto the first page of the search results. Over 70% of all online sales takes place on the first page of the search results, and sales falls off exponentially for each subsequent page. So I can hear you asking now, well, if no one can find my listing, how am I going to get sales? How am I going to get my listing ranked? Well, you're right. It's a catch-22. It's one of those chicken before the egg conundrum. So what can you do? Well, you need to generate sales without relying solely on Amazon's search algorithm, and there's several ways that you can do that. You can have your friends and family buy your product, but make sure that they're not leaving you any reviews. That's against Amazon's terms of service. You can promote your product in Facebook groups, on your own Facebook page, or with online influencers. You can also do paid ads on Google and Facebook. However, the best strategy to get your initial sales is through Amazon's own advertising features, such as promotions, coupons, and PPC. Promotions is a great way to generate sales by offering your product at a deep discount. I suggest offering a discount somewhere around 50 to 70% off. Promotions used to work really well when you could offer 80 to 90% off deals, but recently, if you do, Amazon may see it as rank manipulation. So I don't suggest doing discounts greater than 70% off during a product launch. Coupons is another great way to generate sales. These are the instant discounts buyers can activate from your product page like you can see here. It can also help with conversions since the coupon banner and discounted price catch people's eyes in the search results like you can see here. Now, a pro tip here is during the product launch, you want to make sure you're pricing your product competitively so that there's added incentive to buy from you instead of your competitors. What I suggest is starting around 20% higher than the lower end of the price range of your competitors. For example, if the price range for your niche is around $18 to $28, then I suggest setting your price to around $20 to $22 during the product launch. You don't want to set the price too high since you don't have any reviews or social proof yet, and you don't want to set the price too low as your product can be perceived as low quality. Once your product gains traction and moves up onto the first page, you can slowly raise the price to your target sale price, and you can also stop running promotions and coupons at that time. And don't expect to be making money during the product launch. With the promotions and coupons, you'll most likely be breaking even or even at a slight loss with each sale. This is just part of the business. You'll have to get through this to get your listing ranked. Now, the best way to generate sales is to use Amazon's PPC advertising system. PPC stands for pay per click. This is Amazon's advertising system where sellers can place bids on keywords to have their ads show up in the search results. These are the listings that you can see in the search results that say sponsored. You can find them at the top of the search results, in the middle, and at the bottom, as well as on the product pages. The seller with the highest bid gets the best ad placement, which of course is at the top of the first page. But keep in mind, you're only charged when someone clicks on your ad, not when it's displayed. There's a few different options you can use for your PPC campaigns, but the ones that work best is the sponsored products campaigns. Within the PPC campaigns, there's two ways you can bid on keywords. You can either do an automatic campaign or a manual campaign. Automatic means Amazon will choose the relevant keywords for you based on your product and the keywords you've used in your listing. This is a good way to start with PPC as you don't have to do any additional work. Amazon is doing it all for you. So just to quickly walk you through creating a campaign, choose sponsored products. Now give the campaign a name. It helps to be specific here when you have several campaigns so you can tell which is which. So for example, this one's for my can opener and we're going to use the automatic targeting. From the product list, choose your product. Campaigns can apply to more than one product, such as if you have variations, but I suggest keeping your campaign separate for each individual product. Choose automatic targeting. For the bid amount, I suggest overbidding what the suggested bid is so that you have a better chance of winning the top ad spot on the first page of the search results. So in this case, we can see what the suggested high bid is here. Set it higher to something like $2.50. Now, a pro tip here is just because you set the bid to $2.50 doesn't mean Amazon will actually charge you $2.50 each time someone clicks on your ad. It just means that you're willing to bid up to $2.50. So if the next highest bid is $1.75, then Amazon will outbid it for you at $1.76. Make sense? Now, I'm not going to go over the negative keyword section here. This section is for the keywords or products that you specifically don't want to bid on. Now, for the bidding strategy, during the product launch, I recommend setting it to dynamic bids up and down. Set the campaign name to the same name you chose earlier. Leave the date field alone. And last, set the daily budget to what you can afford. I suggest setting it to at least $10 to $20. And a pro tip here is, I actually suggest setting your daily budget to $100. That way, Amazon will try to show your ad more often. Remember, you don't get charged unless someone actually clicks on your ad. What you can do is throughout the day, check to see how much has been spent on your campaign and then pause the campaign when it reaches the amount that you actually want to spend. then restart the campaign again the next day when it resets. Make sense? Now click on Launch Campaign. Now if you want more control over which keywords you want to bid on, you can choose manual targeting. By choosing manual targeting, you can specify a list of keywords that you want to bid on. This is where the keyword list you created earlier when you were building your product listing can be used again. Creating a manual campaign is the same as before, except choose manual. Make sure to choose keyword targeting, then select Enter List, then copy and paste your keywords here. Click Add Keywords, then Launch Campaign. Now, I actually have a more advanced strategy for setting up your PPC campaigns that's beyond the scope of this video. But if you'd like to learn how I create and optimize my campaigns for a product launch, I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. Okay, before we finish up the video, there's two important things I want to cover about product launches. First, when your new product listing goes live, there's actually a short period of time called the Honeymoon Period, where Amazon will give your listing a small boost in the rankings to see how well it will do and if it'll gain any traction. It's important that you take advantage of this honeymoon period by making sure that your listing is ready to go the instant your listing goes live, meaning that you have your photos done and ready to go, the listing is fully optimized, and your promotions and coupons and PPC are ready to go. You don't want your listing to go live and you're not ready because you don't have your photos done yet or whatever. And secondly, a huge advantage to help you generate sales is to have social proof for your listing. Your listing gets social proof by having positive reviews. The more the better. However, Amazon is very strict on how you can get reviews and will take aggressive action against sellers that try to manipulate the review system. So what you can do to help you get your initial reviews is by signing up for Amazon's Vine program. This is where you can give a free product to trusted reviewers in the Vine program, and they'll leave a product review for you. This is the quickest way to get reviews, but is only available to sellers with a registered brand. Another method is to send a follow-up email to your buyers asking them to leave a review. This method actually doesn't work very well as most buyers have opted out from receiving emails, and Amazon actually already sends emails out for you asking your customers to leave a review. Now, I don't suggest trading reviews in review groups or using review services. That's the fastest way to get caught and have your selling privileges revoked. Now, you'll also organically get reviews just through your normal sales. However, the average sales to review ratio is only around 1%, meaning out of 100 sales, you might get one review. However, if you're the more risk tolerant type, you can have your friends and family buy your product and leave a review, but just realize that if you get caught, you're putting your account health at risk. But there's a specific strategy that you must adhere to if you want to go this route so that you don't get caught. And I have a video that goes over this strategy, and I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. And last, for sticking around to the end, I have a pro tip for you. Once your product reaches the first page, don't just set your sale price and forget it. Test different price points as well as different main photos and see which converts best. If you've differentiated your product really well, you may be surprised that you can actually sell your product at a much higher price point than you had originally expected. But don't raise or lower your price by large amounts or too frequently. If you do, you risk losing the buy box. The buy box is the buy button that's on the product listing page. There's actually a specific pricing strategy that I use and how to strategically change your price so that you don't lose the buy box. I have a video that goes over that, which I'll leave a link to in the description below if you want to learn more about that. All right, and that's it. If you want to get in touch with me, you can find all of my contact details in the video description below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment or question in the comment section below. I answer every single one. And as always, if you found value in this video, consider subscribing. And do me a favor, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really does help me out, and I'd really appreciate it. And make sure you ring that bell so you never miss a future video. All right, thanks for watching.